past, you've also advocated for arming the Syrian rebels. Now you're saying we should arm the Ukrainians. I think there are some critics who would look at your record and say John McCain is just too quick to want to escalate a situation, to want to turn something into a war. What would your response to that be?
Well, we now have 150,000 people who have been murdered by Bashar Assad. We now have a return, there's reports of a different kind of chemical weapon being used. The Russians have dramatically increased their arms supply. And of course, you've got 5,000 Hezbollah on the ground. So we are basically conceding large parts of Syria to Bashar Assad. And that is terrible. There's 1 million refugees in Lebanon. 1 million there. It is destabilizing the entire region. And this administration, I never have seen anything like it in my life.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, it's passive. It's threaten and then don't do anything. During the Cold War, the Russians blockaded Berlin. They had an airlift and we broke the blockade. Ronald Reagan put the Pershing cruise missiles into Western Europe over the incredible objection for the Russians. Vladimir Putin understands peace through strength and nothing else. And so far, we've made a lot of threats and done almost nothing, unless you count 11 people sanctioned and 1 bank. That is pretty remarkable.
Senator, I imagine that you've thought a lot about how you would do things differently from the president over these last 6 years. If this were halfway through the second term of a McCain presidency, how do you think things would look different on the foreign relations front right now?
Well, I hate to do that because then it's, kind of Monday morning quarterbacking, but I certainly would have been much tougher on Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin's the guy that said the worst thing that happened in the Cold War was the breakup of the Soviet Empire. I mean, it's clear what his ambitions are, and we need to understand him and act accordingly. And the best thing that he doesn't, that he will react to is strength. And we have to. The other day, the Secretary of Defense testified before the Armed Services Committee, and of significant cuts in defense spending. On that same day, the Chinese announced a 12% increase in their defense spending. People are not taking the United States of America seriously, and that can lead to serious problems.
Let's switch gears a little bit. The president, of course, is kicking off a trip through Asia. He's going to 4 different countries. It's part of this so-called Asian pivot. What's the biggest challenge there?
Again, the perception that the United States is no longer engaged. Recently, Secretary Hagel was there with the Chinese defense minister, and the Chinese defense minister was almost insulting to him. Get out of the East China Sea, we'll exercise our sovereign rights, etc. They all watch. They all watch what happens, and they act accordingly.
Senator McCain, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.